Everyone thinks the worst moment of my life was when I lost my daughter. They are wrong. The worst moment was hearing my husband laugh while I stood in our kitchen holding divorce papers that said he regretted our unborn child. The miscarriage happened minutes later, but something inside me had already died before the blood ever hit the floor. The envelope arrived at exactly 10:43 on the morning of April 1st. I remember the time because everything about that day burned itself into my memory with horrifying clarity. I was standing beside the copy machine in the break room on the 3rd floor of my office building, waiting for a stack of reports to print, when Monica from reception leaned into the doorway with a strange expression on her face. She looked nervous, almost pale, like she wanted to stop something from happening but did not know how. "There is a man here asking for you," she said carefully. "He says it is urgent." I turned around expecting maybe a delivery driver or someone from corporate, but instead I saw a tall man in a dark gray suit holding a thick manila envelope against his chest. The second I looked at him, my stomach tightened. There was something cold and rehearsed about him. He looked like someone who spent his days ruining lives professionally. "Are you Hannah Carter?" he asked. I nodded automatically, one hand drifting to my stomach. I was 16 weeks pregnant. My daughter was growing inside me. 3 days earlier, my husband and I had finally learned the gender. A little girl. We had already picked out her name, Emma. The man handed me the envelope without emotion. "You have been served," he said. Then he walked away before I could even process the words. The room fell silent behind me. I could feel my coworkers staring. Monica looked horrified. Jason from accounting stopped pretending to organize the coffee station and Opally watched me. Someone near the window whispered, "Oh my God." My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. At first the words did not make sense. I kept rereading the title over and over, convinced my brain was misunderstanding something. "Petition for dissolution of marriage. Filed by Ryan Matthew Carter, my husband, my loving husband who had kissed me goodbye 2 hours earlier while making pancakes in our kitchen. My husband who had spent the weekend assembling nursery furniture with me, while arguing over whether we should paint the walls cream or pale yellow. My husband who cried during the ultrasound appointment when he heard our daughter heartbeat." I flipped through the pages, unable to breathe properly. Every sentence felt like a blade sliding under my ribs. "Wife has become emotionally unstable during pregnancy. Petitioner no longer feels romantic attraction toward respondent. Petitioner regrets decision to have child. Respondent has failed to maintain expected household responsibilities." I thought I might faint. The room tilted violently around me, and I grabbed the edge of the copier to steady myself. My chest tightened so badly I could barely inhale. Every insecurity I had carried since becoming pregnant was right there in black ink. The weight gain, the exhaustion, the fear that Ryan no longer looked at me the same way. The fear that I was becoming too emotional, too needy, too difficult. He had taken every fear living inside my heart and turned it into a legal document. Monica rushed over and guided me toward a chair while someone handed me a bottle of water. I could barely hear them talking. My ears were ringing too loudly. This morning replayed in my mind like a cruel hallucination. Ryan kissing my forehead before work. Ryan asking if my nausea had improved. Ryan reminding me not to skip lunch because the baby needed nutrients. He had smiled at me while secretly planning this. I pulled out my phone and called him immediately. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Again, nothing. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my phone onto the floor. Panic swelled inside me like a rising flood. None of this felt real. My husband would not destroy our marriage without warning. There had to be some explanation. Maybe someone forged the papers, maybe it was fraud. Maybe this was some horrible misunderstanding. But deep down, I already knew it was real. No one files legal paperwork by accident. I stood too quickly and nearly lost my balance. Monica grabbed my elbow before I fell. "You should go home," she said softly. "Do you want me to drive you?" I shook my head. I needed answers. I needed Ryan to look me in the eye and explain how our entire life had apparently been a lie. The drive home felt endless. I cried so hard I had to pull over twice because I could not see through the tears. Cars honked behind me at stoplights while I sat frozen, clutching the steering wheel and gasping for breath. I left Ryan another voicemail while parked on the side of the road. "Please call me back. Please tell me what this is, please." My voice cracked apart at the end. When I finally pulled into our driveway, his truck was sitting there in front of the garage. For one brief second, relief flooded through me. If he was home, then maybe we could fix this. Maybe he had made a terrible mistake. Maybe there was still a chance to save our family. I sat in the car trying to stop crying before walking inside. I kept wiping my face and taking shaky breaths, but nothing helped. My entire body felt cold and numb. The second I walked through the front door, I smelled grilled cheese and tomato soup. Ryan was standing in the kitchen making lunch like it was an ordinary afternoon. He turned toward me smiling casually. "Hey babe, you are home early." I stared at him in disbelief. How could he look so normal? "How could you do this?" I whispered. His forehead creased in confusion. "Do what?" I threw the divorce papers onto the kitchen island. The pages scattered everywhere across the marble countertop we had chosen together during our renovation last year. Ryan looked down at them. Then he started laughing. Not nervous laughter, not uncomfortable laughter, real laughter, the kind where your shoulders shake and tears form in your eyes. He leaned against the counter wheezing while pointing at me. "Oh my God, your face right now, Hannah. This is amazing." My brain stopped working. "What? April Fools, babe. Come on. You seriously thought I was divorcing you?" At that exact moment, his best friend Derek stepped out from the hallway holding a phone pointed directly at me. He had been recording the entire thing. Ryan was still laughing. Derek grinned at me like we were all sharing some hilarious inside joke. "This is gold, dude," he said. Her reaction is insane. I could not move. I could not even process what they were saying. They had staged fake divorce papers, had them delivered publicly to my workplace, humiliated me in front of everyone I worked with, and wrote cruel fake complaints about my pregnancy and our daughter just to make my reaction more dramatic for a video. Ryan walked toward me still chuckling. "Come on, babe, relax, it is funny." Funny? That word shattered something inside me. Then pain exploded across my abdomen. It happened so suddenly that I doubled over with a gasp. A sharp, violent cramp tore through my stomach hard enough to steal the air from my lungs. Ryan's expression changed instantly. "Hannah." Another wave of pain hit me harder than the first. I grabbed the edge of the counter trying not to collapse. "Something is wrong," I whispered. Then I felt warmth spreading down my legs. I looked down. Blood. So much blood. Ryan's face drained completely white. Derek lowered the phone slowly, staring in horror. "Oh my God," Ryan whispered. The pain became unbearable within seconds. It felt like my body was ripping apart from the inside. I slid onto the kitchen floor shaking uncontrollably while blood pooled beneath me. "Call 911, I gasped. Ryan just stood there frozen. Derek finally snapped out of it and grabbed his phone while Ryan dropped beside me trembling violently. "No, no, no, no," he kept saying. "Hannah, stay with me." My hands instinctively covered my stomach as if I could somehow protect my daughter from what was happening. But deep inside, I already knew. I knew I was losing her. The paramedics arrived within minutes. They loaded me onto a stretcher while Ryan climbed into the ambulance beside me covered in my blood. I remember neighbors gathering outside their houses watching us leave with horrified expressions. Inside the ambulance, everything blurred together into sirens and panic and pain. A paramedic kept asking questions I could barely answer. "How far along are you? Any previous complications? How much bleeding?" I could barely speak through the agony. At the hospital, doctors rushed me into emergency imaging while nurses inserted for lines into both arms. Ryan stayed close behind me looking completely shattered. But I could not even look at him anymore. The ultrasound room was silent except for the machine humming softly. I watched the technician face change before she even spoke. There was no heartbeat. A doctor explained that I was experiencing a severe placental abruption. The placenta had separated from the uterus too early. They needed emergency surgery immediately because I was losing too much blood. I stared blankly at the ceiling while they wheeled me toward the operating room. Ryan walked beside the stretcher sobbing opally. "I am sorry," he kept saying. "I swear I never thought this would happen. I never meant this." But his words meant nothing anymore. Our daughter was gone. Everything after surgery felt empty and unreal. When I woke up hours later, my mother was sitting beside my bed holding my hand. Her eyes were swollen from crying. I touched my stomach automatically. Empty. That emptiness nearly destroyed me. The doctor explained everything carefully. The placental abruption had been catastrophic. They had managed to save my life, but there was nothing they could do for the baby. Then I asked the question that haunted me. Could extreme stress cause something like this? The doctor hesitated before answering. Severe emotional trauma can absolutely contribute to placental abruption in some cases, especially when combined with other risk factors. Ryan's actions replayed in my mind like broken glass cutting deeper every time. He had done this. Maybe not intentionally, maybe not maliciously, but he had done it. Later that evening, Ryan came into my hospital room looking like a completely broken man. His clothes were still stained with my blood. He stood near the doorway unable to meet my eyes. "I am so sorry, Hannah, I never wanted this. I thought it would just scare you for a minute. I thought we would laugh afterward. I stared at him in disbelief. You thought making me believe you regretted our daughter would be funny? He started crying harder. You thought humiliating me at work and making me believe my marriage was over would entertain people online? He had no answer, because there was no answer. My mother finally stepped between us. Get out, she said coldly. Ryan left without another word. The next morning, I opened social media and discovered Derek had uploaded the video. The entire thing. The fake divorce papers. My breakdown. Ryan laughing. Even the moment I collapsed bleeding onto the kitchen floor. Millions of strangers were watching the worst moment of my life for entertainment. The comments made me sick. Some people thought it was staged. Some people called it hilarious. Others were furious. Nobody understood that my daughter had died while the camera was still recording. I contacted the hospital legal department immediately demanding the video be removed. By then it already had hundreds of thousands of views spreading across every platform imaginable. That same afternoon, I contacted a divorce lawyer, a real one this time. My parents begged me not to make permanent decisions while grieving, but I already knew my marriage was over. The moment Ryan decided my pain would make good content, something fundamental had broken beyond repair. I spent for days in the hospital recovering physically while emotionally sinking deeper into grief than I knew existed. Ryan tried visiting constantly. I refused every request. Then on the second day, a detective came to speak with me. Apparently several people online had reported the video. The detective asked careful questions about whether Ryan knew I was pregnant while planning the prank. Yes. Did he know about my anxiety surrounding the pregnancy? Yes. Did he intentionally write emotionally distressing accusations involving the unborn child? Yes. The detective took notes quietly while I answered. I did not care about criminal charges. Nothing could punish Ryan more than what had already happened. Our daughter was dead. When I was discharged, I went directly to my parents' house instead of home. I could not walk back into that kitchen. I could not look at the nursery we had painted together. My father had already packed my belongings and removed every photograph of Ryan from the house before I arrived. Meanwhile, the video exploded online. News channels picked it up. Commentary creators analyzed it. People debated whether Ryan should face charges. Derek deleted the original upload after receiving massive backlash. But it was too late. The internet never forgets. 5 days later, my attorney filed divorce papers along with a restraining order. Ryan began desperately trying to contact me through mutual friends and relatives. Every message sounded the same. I made a mistake. I never meant this. Please let me explain. But there was nothing left to explain. Then came the final betrayal. About a week later, my best friend Claire showed me screenshots from an online forum. Ryan had posted there 3 days before April 1st under his gaming username asking for advice on how to make the prank more devastating. He described the fake divorce papers in detail. He asked strangers online for ideas on what cruel accusations to include so my reaction would feel more emotional on camera. Hundreds of people told him not to do it. They warned him it was abusive. Several specifically warned him that extreme stress could hurt the pregnancy. He ignored every warning. When I read those screenshots, something inside me finally hardened permanently. Because until then, part of me still believed it had been stupidity. But Ryan had been warned repeatedly. He chose entertainment over my emotional safety anyway. The divorce process moved quickly after that. Ryan agreed to almost every condition without argument. He gave me the house, the savings, everything. I think guilt destroyed whatever fight he had left in him. The final time I ever saw him was during mediation 6 months later. He looked terrible, thinner, hollow, like he had not slept properly in half a year. At one point he finally looked at me with tears filling his eyes. I loved her too, he whispered. For the first time in months, I actually felt anger instead of numbness. No, I said quietly, if you loved her, you would have protected her. He started crying again, but I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. Afterward, I changed my last name back to Bennett and sold the house. I could not live surrounded by memories of the life we lost. Therapy became the only thing keeping me functional. Some days I still woke up expecting to feel my daughter kick. Some days I caught myself imagining what she would have looked like. Grief does strange things to time. Part of me is still trapped in that kitchen hearing Ryan laugh while my entire world collapsed. But slowly, painfully slowly, life continued. A year later, I started volunteering at a support group for women who experienced pregnancy loss. Listening to other women tell their stories helped me feel less alone in mine. One night after a meeting, a woman asked me something I had never been able to answer before. Do you think he meant to hurt you? I thought about it for a long time. Then I answered honestly. No, I think he loved attention more than he respected consequences. And sometimes that can destroy people just as completely as hate. I still visit Emma grave every month. There is a small willow tree planted nearby that sways softly whenever the wind blows. I usually sit there for an hour talking to her about everything she missed. About sunsets and music, and the way rain smells during summer storms. Sometimes I wonder who she would have become. Then I remember something important. My daughter existed, even if only for 16 weeks. She existed, she was loved, and no prank, no viral video, no careless man chasing internet laughs can ever erase that.